Morning, everybody. So, 2 Sundays ago, I was thinking it was last Sunday. 2 Sundays ago, I left on the high of our annual meeting and drove down to Kansas City to serve the licensing and ordination team, which works with the students who are currently in the Unity Ministerial Program. And when I go down and do that work, our friend Reverend Aaron from Unity Village Chapel provides room and board for me so that our ministry doesn't have the expense of covering that. And we work every minute, just work ourselves to the bone. So here's what happened. I got there last Sunday night, or 2 Sundays ago, and almost the minute I walked in the door, most of you know Reverend Aaron, like she's got some energy about her. And so I walk in the door and she's like, I don't even know what to do. I feel like such a fraud. I don't even know what to talk about on a Sunday. How can we show up week after week and not talk about this? So that was kind of our dialogue, throughout the week. I mean, it's a really risky question for ministers. How do we stay in the current human condition and talk about what our principles mean and how we navigate that without talking about church and state? So I'm going to stay over here on the principle side, and we're going to take a risk. We had that conversation all week, and then last Sunday I was at the Village Chapel with Aaron. We do the service together when I'm down there, and we had a Q&A Sunday. And how they do their gig down there is the people just write the question on the spot and send them up in baskets. And she allows a pretty big window of time for the Q&A, so we cover a lot of questions. So as we're fielding these questions out of this basket, all but one question were about our current state of being, our current social, human, political condition. And so we're getting question after question, and we're taking deep breaths and answering them. And when we finished that portion and we were sitting back down in our seats, I leaned over to Reverend Aaron and I said, proof positive. Everyone, 98 out of 100 people, are thinking about it, talking about it, concerned about it. And I said what I had said earlier in the week, we can't not go there. It's irresponsible, particularly I feel like of us in Unity. The tagline for Unity for 100 years was, it just flew like right out of my head. Home of practical Christianity. Home of practical Christianity. Home of learning how to do the Christ life in our everyday life. So we're going there, okay? And I was telling one of our board members that you left all your paper up here, Angie. I was telling one of our board members that there was a comment on Facebook. I had asked one of the congregants if she was going to be here Sunday. I said, it's a pertinent message. And she said, her next comment was, are you leaving? And it kind of startled me, and I thought, well, not that I know of. So my comment back to her was, as far as I know, I'm employed through Sunday. So we're going to go out on this limb. And I'd like us to have a moment to center in consciousness and to enter this concept, these ideas, these questions and conversation with a curious mind and with an open heart and with open ears. I'm sure, I mean, many of you here I've had conversations with, so I'm sure that you're having conversations in your daily lives as well. And many folks I'm seeing and hearing are contributing the current social unrest to politics, politicians. And people are ready to blame our government like that's not us. People are ready to blame our government in general, or maybe just a small group of people who are pulling the puppet strings, or maybe just the one person that sits in the Oval Office in the White House. So there's a lot of different levels of that approach. And then some other folks see the unrest centered around not so much anger toward people or a person, but deep concern over issues. Deep concern over issues that I'm seeing on the chopping block almost every day. And so I'm continually, over the past few months, have been in this place of just all over the map, but worry and consternation and asking myself, what is mine to do? How can I be effective here? And for those of you that do see my Facebook posts, the ones that aren't about elephants, the issues that keep me up at night are human rights, which also includes women's rights to make decisions about their lives and their health. Another thing that keeps me up at night is access to health care, which so many of us, I presume, sort of take as a given, right? I write my premium check every month and I have health care. If there's something going on, I can go get it taken care of. Another issue that keeps me up at night is reducing gun violence. And of course, another thing that keeps me up at night is consternating over caring for our planet Earth. As far as I know, we've only got one planet. And we need to be paying attention. So in the face of whatever we have named it, chaos, crisis, circus, I've heard, I don't know, what are some other names for it? I can't even come up with them. Disaster. Oh, disaster, yeah. So in the face of all of this, it's of interest, I think, for us to note our own individualized reaction or response to what we see out there. Because much of how we react comes out of our family system. Yes, Kevin? When we were very young, oh so short, we each learned what we needed to do to survive, to cope with the dynamics within our family system, to cope with any amount of emotional disturbance or unrest, physical disturbance or unrest. And there are a myriad of coping techniques. If you feel brave enough to raise your hand, feel free. Some of us become invisible and hide, hoping anxiously that it will go away. In bed with a pillow over my head. Some like to step into the fray with our fists up. A lot to defend. Thank you for being courageous. Right? We have a lot to defend. There's always something to defend and there's something to fight about. And some of us dive into the fray to stir the pot. Because there's that unconscious... This is fun. This is really fun. Because there's that unconscious stimulation from being in the midst of drama. And sometimes that stirring the pot is very subversive. We're not right in the center stirring the pot. We're just sort of poking the bear from a distance and kind of watching the fray. And some of us turn away. This is not happening. Has nothing to do with me. Doesn't affect me. I'm not going to get into this. And some of us get so overwhelmed that we just sort of go into this paralyzed state. Just this frozen, non-functional, don't know what to do. So our spiritual business today is not about naming any of our approaches right or wrong. You know how I am about that. Like everybody has their individual lens. But what we are talking about is first getting conscious. And I'm talking about today, in the face of our social and political climate, getting conscious of our own coping mechanism. So there's the hide and hope it goes away. A couple of us. There's the stirring the pot, keeping the drama going, a couple of us. There's the going in with our fists up, ready to fight and defend. I know there was at least one of us on that one. And there's the, this is not happening. This doesn't have anything to do with me. I'm just not going to get involved here. They're going to work that all out. And then there's just the paralyzed, like just the stunned, overwhelmed, paralyzed. So can you identify your own approach? I think people are getting in touch with that.
Is there an approach called hysteria?
Is there an approach called hysteria? Well, at my house there is.
I mean, just being loud. What is that?
Oh, that's good.
Crying.
Like just the drama, not necessarily stirring the pot, but engaging in the mental, physical, emotional drama of it. Crying, yelling, wailing.
Weeping and moaning. Yeah.
Gnashing of teeth.
Yeah.
I find myself gnashing my teeth. So that's a good way. And is there another approach I missed?
Maybe there's playing the system.
Playing the system?
Yeah, working it for your own gain. You know,
Oh, working it for your own gain.
And then after managing 7 campaigns, which I've done in my life, it's the media. The media is...
Oh, yeah, the shame-blame game, right? Here's whose fault this is. Yeah. So, thought? Here, I'm going to get this because we're live streaming, so I want people to be able to hear. A question.
I have a question. There's a march in Iowa City today, and what would that be? I mean, I think I'm supporting people, not less. My goal right now is to be in a positive place, but so by supporting people, I'm supporting that we are allowed to have Muslims. I'm not going against anybody. So to me, that's where my space is, and I don't feel constrained or anything. I'm trying to hold the energy.
Yay. Did you hear that, Ann? Yay. Did everyone hear that? And I mean, that's like cut to the chase, cut to the summary, because what Unity teaches, preaches, and lives is we're not here to be against anyone or anything. And what we know that we know on a spiritual level is no one and no thing is against me. Yes? It's good for us to remember this. No one and no thing can be against me. And I'm not marching or calling or writing or speaking against anything. And I remember making the note on Facebook months ago, like, I will be noisy, and I will be noisy about these issues because they matter to me. Human rights matters to me. Caring for the planet matters to me. Having access to health care and being able to make choices about what we do in our own health care matters to me. So I feel like the bottom line in Unity is that we stand for something. And that's why for me, so much about what is going on, I want to keep bringing the conversation back to issues. What are the issues for me, for us? Where do we stand on those issues? And then, Anne, we're at this interesting precipice, and I feel like, you know, a tightrope where I'm just wobbling every day. Sometimes I can be just so anchored and centered, and sometimes I read something and I just find my mind, you know, getting really loud and just going off again. Thank you. Need to go to Puerto Vallarta. Board? Thumbs up on that? I was, let's see, is that a business expense? I think it would be, right? So the question is identifying our go-to approach and getting in touch with what I would call our unity approach, our spiritual approach. Because I think the important question is, can we be in it? Can we be involved? Can we stand for whatever we choose to stand for? And can we do that from a place of peace? Can we do that from a place of conviction? And I don't mean conviction in they're wrong, I'm right, one way, my way, or the highway, but I mean a place of spiritual conviction where we can be at peace. And can we approach current conditions, issues, situations, people, can we approach all of this with the intention of bringing about positive change? My mind, and in my conversations with Reverend Aaron that week, we kept coming back to amazing, phenomenal leaders who modeled going through really, really, really difficult social times and who co-created positive change from a place of non-resistance, from a place of conviction and truth, and not backing down from the issue and from what feels right. And it's what we would call divine discontent. So if any of us, there may be a couple of us in the room, if any of us are finding ourselves in a place of divine discontent, we turn to, I wish I'd brought a toolbox, just thought of it. We turn to our spiritual toolbox. And we look for how to use our spiritual tools, how to use the what is out there. And by the way, it exists out there because it exists in here. Yes? We all get that, right? It's not us and them, it's us. And we're all a part of it on one level or another. So part of our intention, I feel like, needs to be holding the intention for positive change and holding the intention for connecting one to the other. Martha Creek just came in and she said, I can remember her phrase 1,000 times over, stay calm, stay connected, and stay the course. Stay calm, stay connected, and stay the course. Now, as we mentioned in e-news, it's ever so handy that our power that we're studying this month is strength. And are you all aware that Paula is holding on the first Sunday of each month, Paula Land is holding a discussion group in Sacred Grounds and Books about the current power of the month. So it's a good way to get your toes in there and start to learn about our 12 faculties. Strength It's such a deep and rich faculty. And I think it will be key for us to know about it and to activate it in our current spiritual journey. We have really great books. So check out the Lending Library. I know we have some of these in the Lending Library. I don't know if we have them all. And I know we have some in the bookstore. Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore and the second Mrs. Fillmore wrote a book called The 12 Powers of Man. Winifred Houseman, I just looked her up. She just died in 2012, 5 years ago. She was 90 years old. And she co-founded a ministry in Ohio and was in that ministry forever. She wrote like 3 books. Your God-Given Potential. And we have William Warch, who wrote How to Use Your 12 Gifts. And we have the newest one from the great Reverend Phil Pearson, called The 12 Freedoms. And he writes this from a very metaphysical point, but there's another word I want. Quantum physics point. Phil can go just a little bit over my head sometimes. So we have some great resources. Every one of our 12 powers is identified with a disciple by Charles Fillmore. This disciple is Andrew, the second disciple called to walk with Jesus. The reason Andrew is the disciple is the Greek translation of his name is strong man. We have a body point for each of our 12 powers. Strength is the base of the spine, the lower back. It's closely allied with the adrenals, which are sometimes referred to as the fighters of the body. They secrete adrenaline, and that's a substance that flows throughout our body and gives us the vitality to do what is ours to do. So here's my interpretation of strength. And I come to this primarily because of the body point. If you think about the spine and strength being the base of the spine, it's really our spiritual character that keeps us upright, that keeps us in right living, right thinking. It's our spiritual character. And Fillmore said this about strength. When he talks in the beginning of his chapter on strength, he uses the example, the story from the Hebrew Bible of David and Goliath. You know, David's a little guy and Goliath is a big Philistine guy, and Goliath has on this great big suit of armor, and David has on his little loinskin and his, slingshot. And, of course, David takes down Goliath. So Fillmore makes the distinction that when we're activating the spiritual character of strength, the stronger than he who takes away the whole armor. So our spiritual strength is about an inner knowing. I guess it kind of comes back to there's no one and no thing against me. No matter what the appearances are out there, no matter how big the monster is, no matter, I'm Iron Man, I'm going back to some of our comic characters, no matter how big and powerful it looks, that there's nothing more powerful than spiritual strength. And it's about the mastery of the spiritual over the material. It's about the mastery of how we're seeing it, how we're being with it, how we're processing what we're in the midst of. And he says that David's power was gained by trusting in this divine intelligence, in this strength. He says how easy it is to overcome the seemingly strong personal and material conditions when the mind of spirit is brought to action. He says the strength here discussed is not physical strength alone, but mental and spiritual strength. All strength originates in spirit, and the thought and the word spiritually expressed bring the manifestation. The name of Jehovah is a strong tower. It's a really necessary distinction when we're talking about strength. You know, we talk about it's the power to persevere, the power to endure. And that kind of takes my mind to, you know, the physical, material aspect of it. And it's really important that we make the distinction about not brawn or might, but that spiritual character in which we stand. Our friend Winifred has some really cool thoughts on it. She talks about how strength expresses on 3 levels. It expresses itself on 3 levels, each one complementing the others in this life expression on the earth plane. In the physical realm, strength is vitality, endurance, ability to persist. And think about physical strength, which is so tied into mental, emotional, spiritual strength. We've all been through times in our life when we think we have nothing left. Out of gas, on empty. And when we know to turn within, we turn to that infinite well that is our ability to persist, our ability to get out of bed again, and our ability to do life again. So then she talks about the mental area. Strength is that quality of mind which enables one to lead, to follow through on decisions, to establish purpose in life, and to hold firm to the spiritual principles of daily living. Good stuff, huh? To establish purpose in life and to hold firm to our spiritual character. So, especially in the midst of current conditions that, I don't know about you, but I can be sometimes very easily compelled. I feel like a weeble wobble, you know, just coming off center. And I see a post on Facebook and I hear my mind like just rah! And sometimes my fingers go to the keyboard and I type things. And I get ready to hit send, and then like, you know, Spirit is there going, turn back. Only once. There was one post this week that the Spirit wasn't awake, and I hit send, and then I kept laying there thinking, you know, that just doesn't feel good that I responded to that. So I went back in and deleted it and felt better about myself. But it's that moment of catching strength and catching that spiritual character. Does this really serve the highest good? And Houseman says the highest expression, of course, is the realization of spiritual strength. Only divine strength, which is activated from divine mind in us, from our Christ consciousness. Only spiritual strength can bring us to this place of non-resistance, can bring us to this place of, here's what I stand for. No one and no thing is against me. So this doesn't mean this. The idea of non-resistance, I think, sometimes brings to mind, you know, I'm the victim and they can do whatever they want. Non-resistance is about being in a place of peace and still standing in our passionate conviction and intention. I don't have to give you examples from Martin Luther King. I mean, he demonstrated that in the face of fear, literally in the face of death threats, that he could still stand in that spiritual character and still stand for human rights. So as we're developing this muscle, this spiritual character muscle, it's important for us to be mindful of mastering those emotional outbursts. Either face-to-face conversation, social media. Social media is so slippery, because, I mean, people come in and comment on my stuff, and I'm like, how did you find me? What back door did you slip in? And, I want to respond to that person because it is anonymous. Like, this isn't somebody from UnityCR. I'm never going to see this person. And I catch that because it's still about the connection, and it's still about mastering and managing my go-to behaviors. Because you know what, my friends? This is big stuff. This is big stuff. And so many, particularly Unity people, have been saying over the past many weeks, we are born for these times. We are here for a purpose. We are important here. And we cannot afford to use energy on anger or frustration or lashing out. We have to harness that energy and moving it forward to what is my spiritual character, what is my strength. And frankly, I do have to remind myself every week, sometimes every day. So we develop this faculty of strength. I think we get it first on an intellectual basis. Check out these books in the library and in the bookstore. 12 Powers. How to use your 12 gifts, your God-given potential, the 12 freedoms. Pick them up and just go to strength and read about it. Take it in. Because getting that deeper spiritual understanding, we can take that knowing into the silence. We can come back to center. We can plug into that spiritual character. It's innate in all of us. It's not like some of us have it and some of us don't. And so we look to our spiritual practice of using our strength to direct our thoughts, our words, and our actions. So my fellow spiritual travelers, no matter where you stand on the political spectrum, no matter where you stand on the myriad of issues that are up for us, as each of us comes to this place of spiritual strength and activates it from within, we are shifting the vibration. So I invite you to get comfortable in your seats. Adjust your physical body and notice the physical relaxation. It's also good to notice that we are being breathed in this very moment by a life force that is eternal. And within that life force, within that mojo, that energy, that presence, is our spiritual strength. The spiritual character that is our GPS in life. We turn within with whatever we have in our hearts this morning, and we invite the activity of spirit in us, open and curious to insight, to guidance, direction, words, thoughts. We open our whole self, the anger, the fear, the dismay, the frustration, the peace. We open our whole selves in this holy moment to the activity of Spirit in us. Have your way in me, O God. Be still and know that I am. Here and now, in this place, in this moment, for a divine purpose. And we are being called to become a part of the energy that co-creates a world that is just. Co-create a world that is fair. Co-create a world that includes all of humankind. Here I am. Use me, lead me, guide me. And so it is. Amen. Collective breath.